Hello! Welcome back to ESL Universe. My name is Calida, and today we're going to have a short, focused lesson on the S ending that needs to be added to many words in English. First, let's review when and why an S ending would need to be added to a word in English. The first reason for an S to be added to the end of a word is for subject-verb agreement. This can also be referred to as third-person singular. This means that we need to add an S in English to verbs in the present tense when the subject of the verb is a third-person singular noun or pronoun. Let's quickly review pronouns. I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. The pronouns he, she, and it are the third-person singular pronouns. Any noun that can be replaced by one of those words are third-person singular nouns. For example, boy, girl, Lucy, snake, shoe. The list can be endless. This is why we often talk about third-person singular in terms of the three pronouns that are used to replace these nouns. However, keep in mind that if your sentence uses a noun that can be replaced by one of those three words, the same rule applies. All right, now that we have reviewed the subjects that we are talking about, we need to know what this has to do with the letter S. Essentially, any verb that comes after one of these subjects needs to have an S added onto the end of it so that it agrees with the subject if we are talking in the present tense. For example, he runs, she talks, it needs. Keep in mind that the most basic English sentence only requires a subject and a verb, so these examples are actually full sentences. However, it is rare that we only use two words in every sentence, so please realize that we still treat these verbs the same way, even if we have other words in the sentence as well. You do need to remember to pay attention to the subject being used for a specific verb. This is because sometimes a sentence will use more than one subject and verb pair. For example, Susie and I are going shopping while Frank plays basketball. Notice that in this sentence, the first part uses a different subject and a different tense entirely. However, in the second part, we see the subject Frank, which we can replace with the pronoun he, doing something in the present tense. This means that the word play must have an S added onto it. Frank plays. Now that we've established that verbs used for third-person singular nouns require an added S, I'd also like to point out that certain verb-ending sounds need to have a written ES instead of just an S. This means that verbs which end in letter combinations such as S, SS, SH, CH, TCH, X, and Z need to be written with an ES. For example, the bee buzzes. She washes the laundry. John fixes the hole. The second reason for an S to be added to the end of a word is to make a noun plural. A plural noun is simply a noun which is talking about more than one thing, place, idea, or person. In order to make a regular singular noun plural, all that we do is add the suffix S or ES as appropriate. For example, there are 4 cars. He has a few friends. We have some balls. In much the same way as the verbs which need an ES ending added, singular nouns that end in S, SS, SH, CH, TCH, X, and Z also need to be written with an ES. In some cases, nouns that end in an S or Z also need to have the last letter doubled before adding the ES. There are several other spelling rules that apply to plural nouns. However, that will be covered in another video. Today, our focus is on learning that we need an S or ES added when there are 2 or more of a particular noun. All right, So now that we know when we need to add an S to a word, we also need to review how to properly pronounce the S ending. If you remember from my video on when is an S a Z, the pronunciation of the ending S sound can be confusing for English language learners because there are actually 3 different ways to pronounce the ending S. The pronunciation that you choose depends on the last sound made in the root verb or noun. If the word ends with a voiceless sound, it is pronounced as a S. Remember that an unvoiced sound is one that doesn't make your vocal cords vibrate when you make it. Examples of unvoiced letter sounds are P, T, F, and K. Let's review some examples. Works, beeps, sits, and jumps. If the word ends with a voiced sound, it is pronounced as a Z. Voiced sounds make our vocal cords vibrate, and we can feel that movement when we place our hand on our throat. Most of the sounds in English are actually voiced, including all of the vowel sounds. Some examples are worlds, trees, eyes, and cars. Finally, if the word ends in what we call a sibilant sound, we need to pronounce the ending S as an is. This means that there is a full syllable being added onto these words. Sibilant sounds are made by forcing air out towards your teeth and often sound like a hiss, a buzz, or a sh sound. These are the same sounds that require an added ES in writing. This means that if you see an added ES instead of just an S, you need to add the extra syllable. For example, buzzes, cheeses, wishes, and foxes. I hope that this helps you understand when you need to add an S at the end of a word and how to properly pronounce that S. To practice this skill, I recommend writing at least 8 sentences that use either a plural noun or that require subject-verb agreement for a third-person singular noun. Then, practice reading those sentences out loud, making sure that you are saying the S correctly in every word. Don't forget that subscribing is free. Enjoy your day and see you again soon.